My mom used my name to open 6 credit cards while calling me irresponsible, so I took her to small claims court. On her birthday, I was 19 when I found out my credit score was already wrecked. I wasn't applying for a loan, not trying to buy a car or anything. I just wanted to sign up for a student apartment near campus that needed a credit check. Nothing fancy, just a shared place with moldy tiles and a broken dryer, but it was walking distance from school. I had a part-time job at the bookstore. I was proud of that. The leasing office pulled my credit and gave me this look like I'd walked in and slapped someone. "Are you aware your score is 489? The woman asked, tilting the screen toward me. I laughed, literally laughed. "That's not possible. I don't even have a credit card." She raised an eyebrow. "Someone does. There are 6 open accounts under your name." That's when the panic started creeping in. I went home and checked. Pulled my own credit report. Capital One. Discover. Macy's. Even a damn Target card. All open when I was 17 or 18. All defaulted. Minimum payments missed. Some accounts sent to collections. And every single one had my legal name, address, and birth date. My first call was to my mom. I expected tears, or at least shock. But she didn't even pretend. "Oh, I had to," she said casually. "We needed groceries. And you never helped with bills anyway." I was stunned. "You used my name. That's fraud." "Oh, don't be dramatic," she scoffed. "You were living under my roof. I gave you life. You can't give a little back?" I hung up. Or maybe she did. My hands were shaking so badly I don't remember. Here's the kicker. My mom used to call me irresponsible all the time. Whenever I spent money on something non-essential, like buying my own backpack instead of using the broken one she duct taped, she'd say, "You're why we can't have anything. You don't understand how money works." She made me feel guilty for getting free lunch at school, for not picking up more shifts at my part-time job, for taking out a student loan. And all that time, she was the one blowing through credit cards in my name to buy herself Ulta gift sets and DoorDash. The betrayal was layered. It wasn't just about money. It was about being used. The day I moved out of that house was both humiliating and freeing. I packed my stuff in trash bags because we didn't have suitcases. My older cousin Mike let me crash on his futon in his 1-bedroom apartment. He was the first person to say, "That's identity theft, dude. Not just some oopsie." Mike helped me file a police report. It felt gross, reporting your own mom. But it was the first step to clearing my name. The cops didn't do much, to be honest. Family disputes like this rarely go anywhere criminally, unless there's major fraud involved. But the paperwork was something I needed to take it to the credit bureaus. And I started writing letters. Dispute after dispute. Each card company had a different process. Some believed me. Others didn't. One rep literally said, "Well, your mom has the same last name. Maybe she had permission." Yeah, because what teenager gives permission to rack up thousands in debt on a Macy's card? It took over a year to get some of the accounts cleared. Others remained on my record, looming like scars. I had to get a secured credit card just to start rebuilding. I couldn't qualify for student housing, so I stayed with Mike longer than I wanted, picking up dog walking gigs between classes and eating a lot of ramen. Through all this, my mom didn't apologize. Not once. Instead, she doubled down. She told my aunts and uncles I was ungrateful, that I abandoned the family, that I was attacking her character when all she ever did was try her best. She spun it into some martyr narrative, her sacrificing everything for a child who couldn't appreciate her. But what really broke me was what she did 2 years later. She tried to take out another credit card in my name. I found out because one of the companies flagged it as suspicious. I had put fraud alerts on all my accounts, so I got the notification immediately. This time, she'd used a slightly different address, her boyfriend's, but my name and social security number were still the same. That was the final straw. I didn't care if people said, "But she's your mother." I was done playing nice just because someone shares DNA. I gathered every document I had: credit reports, screenshots, payment history, the flagged application. I filed a case in small claims court for damages related to the fraudulent accounts, missed opportunities, time lost, emotional distress. I wasn't asking for millions, just enough to send a message. Here's the twist, though. When I filed the court date, I noticed something. The only available slot was 2 months out on her birthday. I smiled, not because I'm cruel, but because the timing felt poetic. This woman spent years celebrating herself while stealing from me. This year, I'd be the one handing her a gift, with court papers attached. I didn't tell anyone in the family. I didn't want drama. I just waited, quietly. I spent those 2 months preparing. My credit was getting better. My business classes were going well. I'd even started writing about financial literacy for kids who grew up like me, kids who learned the hard way what money could do in the wrong hands. And on the day of the hearing, I put on my best thrifted blazer, walked into that courtroom, and looked my mother in the eye. She blinked when she saw me. Seriously, she hissed. On my birthday? I leaned in and said calmly, "Happy birthday, Mom. This one's for me." We sat across from each other at that dull gray table, the kind every municipal building seems to be issued in bulk. I'd seen courtrooms in movies full of gavel banging, dramatic speeches, tearful confessions. Small claims wasn't like that. No jury. Just me, her, and a judge with too many cases and not enough time. My mom didn't even dress up. She wore this loud, floral print cardigan and jeans, like she was running errands. I'd seen her wear that same outfit to a grocery store argument once. That's how I knew she wasn't taking this seriously. She didn't bring a lawyer. You don't really need one for small claims, but I could tell she expected the whole thing to get tossed. She had that same smug smile she used when I was a kid, and she'd punish me by taking away my books instead of my phone, because she knew what would hurt more. The judge was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes but no patience for nonsense. She asked me to state my claim. My hands were sweating, but I spoke clearly. "I'm suing for damages related to identity theft committed by the defendant, my mother," I said. She opened 6 credit card accounts in my name between the ages of 17 and 19 without my consent. She defaulted on all of them, which affected my credit score, delayed my ability to secure housing, and required over a year of dispute processes to begin repairing. The judge raised an eyebrow and glanced at my mom. "Is that true?" My mom gave a dismissive shrug, like she was being asked if she overwatered the plants. "I mean, I used his name, sure. But I didn't think he'd care. We were struggling. It wasn't that much money." That sentence. "I didn't think he'd care." It sat in my chest like a brick. I handed over the packet I'd prepared, credit reports, emails, denial letters, the fraud alert, even the flagged new application. The judge looked through them silently, occasionally nodding. My mom didn't bring anything. No documents, no explanation. Just vibes. "Did you attempt to rectify this after your son confronted you?" the judge asked her. I told him I was sorry. My mom lied. "You never apologized," I said, louder than I intended. "You called me dramatic. You said I owed you for raising me." The judge looked back at her. "Is that accurate?" My mom let out this exasperated breath like she was the victim here. "I did what I had to do." "He's acting like I'm a criminal." "Ma'am," the judge said flatly, "you used a minor's identity to open multiple lines of credit without permission. That is criminal. You're fortunate this is a civil claim." That was the first time I saw my mom's face crack. Not break. She doesn't break. But something faltered. For once, someone in authority wasn't siding with her just because she was the adult in the room. The judge reviewed the damages I'd listed. I wasn't being greedy, just the unpaid rent I'd missed out on from losing that apartment, plus some filing fees and time-off costs. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was justice, wrapped in paperwork. My mom tried to pivot, said she loved me deeply and made some mistakes, and that we should handle this as a family. But the judge shook her head. Family is not a shield for financial exploitation. That line. I still remember it word for word. The ruling took 10 minutes. She found in my favor. My mom was ordered to pay me $2,300 over the next 3 months. She had 30 days to make the first payment, or additional penalties could be added. It wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about putting a system on record that my mom couldn't gaslight away. As we stood up to leave, she leaned in and whispered, "You're going to regret this. You've embarrassed me." I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You embarrassed yourself." I just held up the mirror. She stormed out, muttering something about ungrateful children. I stayed behind and thanked the judge. After that, word got around the family fast. Some relatives called me petty, said I should have handled it privately. But more than a few cousins, even my uncle who never liked me, reached out quietly and said she did the same thing to me. One cousin had a cell phone bill in collections he never signed up for. Another found out she'd co-signed a car loan using her adult son's info while he was in the military. It was a pattern. I wasn't the exception. I was just the one who finally said, enough. A month later, the first payment came in. A money order with no return address. No note. But it was something. I used that money to pay off the last of the fees from a community college business course I'd been putting off. I wanted to start a freelance design agency. Something small. Something mine. Every time another payment came, I set it aside, not out of spite, but to build something good from something rotten. That same month, I got a message from her on Facebook. Can we just move on? You've made your point. I didn't reply. I left it unread. Not because I was angry, but because some conversations don't deserve answers. Some people don't earn closure. I'll admit, there were nights I felt guilty. She's my mom. She raised me. She kept me alive. But keeping a kid alive while ruining their future is not love. It's control. And I wasn't a kid anymore. By the time the final payment came, I'd started designing my logo, building a small site, and even landed 2 clients. I remember looking at the check and thinking, you called me irresponsible. And yet here I was, building a business while she dodged debt collectors and told her friends I was acting out. She used to say, mothers know best. Turns out, sons grow up. And sometimes, they know better. About 3 weeks after the last payment cleared, I got a letter in the mail addressed to my full legal name, but the sender's address was blank. Inside was a single sheet of paper, torn from a lined notebook, and the handwriting was unmistakable. My mother, you really think this makes you better than me? You're so caught up in being right, you forgot who changed your diapers. You can have your little victory, but don't come crying to me when you fall. I won't be here to catch you anymore. That was it. No salutation. No signature. I should have been furious, but I mostly felt tired. It was like she couldn't stop herself. Even in what could have been an olive branch, even in a moment of silence, she found a way to make it about how much I owed her. How much I was supposed to be grateful for being dragged through a childhood full of passive-aggressive jabs, financial instability, and constant gaslighting. That was the last time she reached out for a while. But her shadow didn't fade. There were other ghosts that stuck around. One of the cards she'd opened in my name, an old Target account, refused to disappear. Despite the police report, the court ruling, the fraud alert, they wouldn't remove it from my file. Not enough evidence, they said. Even after all the damage she'd done, one corporation didn't think it was clear she wasn't me. So it stayed. A $623 charge-off, listed every time someone pulled my credit. A scar I didn't earn, but one I carried. I started naming these debts in my head, not just by amount, but by the memories they matched. Capital One? That was the winter she bought a new coat but made me wear shoes with holes in them. Macy's. The time she said I was too ugly to need skincare but bought herself a $50 serum. And that Target card? That was the month she told me college isn't for kids like you, and used my ID to open an account for a flat screen she later pawned. People talk about financial abuse like it's just someone stealing money. But it's deeper. It's making you believe you're irresponsible when they are the ones burning everything down behind you. It's rewriting the story so that you start questioning your own memories, wondering if maybe you were dramatic, ungrateful, unworthy. But I wasn't that kid anymore. I took that energy, the hurt, the gaslighting, the letters from ghost accounts, and poured it into my business. I called it ClearTab, not just a nod to clearing debt, but to the idea of wiping the slate clean and choosing who you want to be, regardless of where you came from. At first, it was just logo design and basic branding packages for small businesses. Most of my clients came through online freelancing sites. But word spread. I started offering full identity systems, helping people launch their own websites, pick brand colors, even shape their copywriting. It was weirdly poetic, helping others find their voice while I reclaimed mine. A year in, I hit 5 figures. It wasn't much in the grand scheme of things, but it was mine. Built on nights with ramen and YouTube tutorials. Built during days when I wanted to give up because a card my mom opened in 2018 still wouldn't go away. Sometimes I'd lie awake at night and wonder if I could have forgiven her if she had just said the words. If she'd admitted what she did, offered something more than excuses and veiled insults. But people like her don't change. They don't apologize, they deflect. The kicker? One of my early clients was a single mom trying to build a wellness brand. She was nothing like my mom. She asked good questions, paid invoices on time, always thanked me. At the end of the project, she sent me a voice note saying, "I don't know what your mom was like, but you must have raised yourself well." I sat with that sentence for a long time. Because yeah, I did raise myself. Between gas bill notices and fake apologies, I figured out how to be better than what I was handed. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I checked my mom's Facebook. She still hadn't blocked me, but I wasn't in her friends list anymore. She'd posted about my sister's engagement, about her new job working part-time at a bakery, about the toxic people she was cutting out of her life. She wrote, "Sometimes your own children are your biggest disappointment." And beneath it, A reply from one of her friends. If they don't appreciate you, they don't deserve you. I didn't comment. I didn't message her. I just logged off. But something in me settled that day. I no longer needed her version of love, the kind that came with strings and IOUs. I had learned to love myself without her help, and that mattered more than any viral comeback or poetic revenge. Still, the story didn't end there. About 6 months after I launched my business, I got an inquiry through my website. No name, just an email, james_finance101@gmail.com, and a message. Looking for branding for a family bakery. Starting fresh. My partner and I recently relocated. Found your site through a friend. Would love to work together. I stared at the name. James was my mom's boyfriend, the same one whose address she used to try to open a seventh credit card in my name. I checked the domain. No real website. But the tone? The spelling? It felt eerily familiar. I knew what was happening. She was trying to come in through the back door, new name, new email, new partner, hoping I'd just take the gig like I didn't recognize her fingerprints on every letter. And in that moment, I realized something else. This wasn't just about closure anymore. It was about drawing a line. I sat at my desk, rereading that inquiry email like it might suddenly confess to its real sender. James, my mom's boyfriend. A ghost address. A soft pitch. She thought I wouldn't recognize her, like I hadn't spent 20 years decoding her manipulations. I didn't reply right away. I let the message sit in my inbox like an unopened letter from the past. Because that's what it was. A test. A probe. Maybe even desperation dressed up in business casual. 2 days later, another email came. This time, it was James again, apologizing for being too eager and attaching a mood board pulled straight from Pinterest, one I recognized. Because my mom once pinned those same cupcake photos on a shared board during her short-lived baking phase. She didn't even bother changing the names on some of the files. One was literally called Mom's Bakery Vibes _final.jpg. Subtle. I could have ignored it. I could have deleted the email, blocked the account, moved on. But I didn't. I replied, Hi James. Thanks for your interest in ClearTap. We're currently onboarding new clients, and your project sounds like a great fit. I'd love to set up a discovery call to talk through your goals and vision for the brand. I even attached a questionnaire. I made it as professional as possible because I wanted every step of what came next to be bulletproof. Documented. Unarguable. 3 hours later, James responded. This time, he CC'd someone named Lisa. A new email. lisa.h.bakes@icloud.com short intro. Lisa was the supposed co-owner. Except the sentence structure was off, like she was trying to sound more formal than usual, but didn't quite know how. I knew that voice. It was my mother's customer service tone, the one she used on PDA boards and Facebook Marketplace replies. I scheduled the call. Google Meet. No cameras required. When the day came, I wore a plain black t-shirt and sat in front of a blank wall. I hit join 5 minutes early and waited. They joined exactly on time, mics only. James didn't talk. Lisa did. The voice was unmistakable. My mom. She didn't recognize mine at first, probably because I dropped it a few octaves and spoke slowly, precisely. She explained her vision in generic terms: farmhouse aesthetic, warm colors, retro branding. She mentioned wanting something high-end but friendly. She stumbled a bit when I asked her for her bakery's mission. It's, about family, togetherness, starting fresh. I muted myself for a second so she wouldn't hear me laugh. After the call, I sent the contract. A real one. Flat fee, full brand package, non-refundable deposit of $1,000. I was half sure she'd ghost me, but she didn't. 3 days later, the deposit landed in my business account from a checking account under Lisa H. Benson, her legal name, now that she'd married James. Gotcha. Over the next few weeks, I went full throttle. I created mock-ups, wireframes, logo samples, my best work, honestly. I gave her 3 rounds of revisions, took her vague suggestions, and translated them into clean, minimalist branding, all while she had no idea she was hiring the son she'd financially sabotaged. Then I got to the final presentation. That was my moment. I emailed her the scheduling link and asked if we could meet with video on so I could personally walk her through the designs and get live feedback. To my surprise, she agreed. Probably thought it'd be good to see the face of the business. The call started at 2 p.m. sharp. She was wearing lipstick and a new sweater, her hair done in a way I hadn't seen in years. She looked like she was playing dress up as someone important. She said, Nice to finally meet you, Elijah. I smiled and said, You too, Mom. Her smile didn't just drop, it shattered. There was a full 5 seconds of silence before she spoke. What a how? Still stealing, I said calmly. Because you just took someone else's job. Her face went pale. She looked off screen like James might be there, ready to save her. I shared my screen, brought up her contract, pointed to the clause that stated the client's legal name, and declared all information provided must be accurate under penalty of breach. Then I brought up a second document, my court records from small claims. Stamped, signed, listed her name, date, and the judgment against her. This isn't just a breach of contract, I said. It's impersonation to solicit services under false pretenses. You didn't just lie. You paid me using the name of the woman who stole my identity to open 6 credit cards. The woman who told me I was ungrateful while tanking my credit score. The same woman who said I'd never make anything of myself. She tried to cut me off. You got your money. What more do you want? I leaned in, voice steady. I want you to know exactly who you tried to fool and that you failed. Then I pulled up the branding assets. The entire suite, beautiful, polished, and finished. And I deleted them, live, one by one. Her jaw dropped. You can't do that. I can. And I just did. You violated the contract. You're not entitled to anything. And don't worry, I'm refunding the deposit because I wouldn't let you pay me if you begged. She started yelling, but I muted her, sat there in silence while she flailed on screen, watching herself unravel. After a minute, I ended the call. 10 minutes later, she emailed me in all caps. You're a child. I was trying to fix things. I didn't respond. Instead, I posted a new blog entry on my business site. Title, What I Learned About Branding from Someone Who Lied About Who They Were. I didn't name her. Didn't need to. The lessons were universal. Know who you're working with. Contracts matter. Sometimes, a broken foundation looks like family. And the most important one? You can't rebrand your soul. It's been about 9 months since the last time I saw her face pop up on my screen. I haven't heard from her since the day I deleted her files and ended the call, and I haven't needed to. Because this wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about reclaiming something she took from me years ago. My sense of worth, my voice, and maybe most of all, my ability to draw a line and say, this is enough. After everything, I still refunded the deposit. I know a lot of people wouldn't have, and honestly, I went back and forth about it for days. But it felt cleaner that way. Untangled. I didn't want a dime from her. Not through court, not through fake projects, not through guilt. I made peace with the fact that she'd never give me what I really wanted, an apology. She wasn't built that way. The last few months have been the calmest of my adult life. Not because everything is easy now. I still work overtime some weeks. I still catch myself flinching when I get letters from banks or strange numbers calling. But there's a stillness I didn't have before. A clarity. ClearTab is doing better than ever. I hired my first assistant. She's a single mom in her 30s who's trying to re-enter the workforce after years of staying home with her kids. She reminds me a little of the person I was trying to be all along, capable, kind, a little scared, but doing it anyway. We work well together. No drama. Just two people who've been through things, trying to make something solid. One of our newest clients is a community center for financial literacy. They want branding that doesn't feel cold or corporate. They want something human, something rooted in real stories. When they asked if I had any personal connection to the topic, I laughed. More than you know. They're paying me to design posters about credit repair, budgeting, and how to spot financial abuse. Every time I work on those, I feel like I'm stitching up old wounds, one pixel at a time. And yet, some nights, I still think about the girl I used to be, 17, in a hoodie 2 sizes too big, walking to the public library with a notebook full of dreams I was too afraid to say out loud. I used to sit by the dusty desktop computers and sketch logos in the margins of job applications I never submitted. If you told that kid she'd one day be in charge of her own life, running a company, building something real, she'd probably laugh. Or cry. Maybe both. I didn't get here because I'm special. I got here because I stopped waiting for someone to rescue me, validate me, or hand me the keys to a life I was supposed to earn. I fought for it. Quietly, stubbornly, sometimes angrily. But always forward. As for my mom, last I heard, she was still posting motivational quotes on Facebook and talking about how strong women don't need anyone's approval. She got a tattoo last year, an infinity symbol on her wrist, which felt like the most ironic thing possible. given how often she discarded the people who actually loved her. My sister says she still tells people I cut her off for no reason. I've let that go too. People like her need their stories, and I'm not interested in stealing them, just in correcting mine. Last month, I finally got approved for a mortgage. Credit score back in the 700s. I stood outside a little two-bedroom fixer-upper, key in hand, tears in my eyes. Not because it was the house of my dreams, but because it was mine. No cosigner, no lies on paper, no ghost accounts. Just me, the one she called irresponsible, the one she opened 6 credit cards under, holding the key to something real. When I posted the closing photo, I didn't tag anyone. No long captions. Just a photo of me on the porch with a mug that said, "Homebody." But I did get a text a few days later from an unknown number. Must be nice to finally feel important. Don't forget who raised you. I didn't reply. I just blocked the number and went back to painting the guest room. Closure isn't a moment. It's a decision. You don't always get it from the people who wronged you. Sometimes you give it to yourself by saying, "This ends here." With me. I wrote a poem about that once. It never made it into a book, but it stayed with me. She planted silence where I needed rain. So I dug my own garden anyway. And when she asked for flowers, I mailed her the dirt. Here's still pain, yeah, still scars. But I'm not carrying them for her anymore. If you're reading this because someone took something from you, your credit, your name, your sense of peace, I want you to know something. You're not alone. You're not crazy. And you're not broken beyond repair. It takes time. It takes guts. But you can get your life back. Maybe not the way it was before, but better, truer, built by your own hands. Thanks for listening. And to my mom, if somehow you're reading this, you were right. I am responsible, just not for your mess.